Well, it looks like OARK is next on a reverse stock split for yield max. Let's look at its underlying ARKK, and then we're going to look at OARK and kind of see what we can glean from any of this information. This is Mike, the Tactical Stock Scalper. All right. So OARK is probably on the verge of a reverse split. Let's kind of see how this happened and see if we can learn anything from it. So let's go ahead and look at this underlying first, because that's the most important part of any covered call fund, not just yield max, but any of them. So as we see here, at least on a daily time frame for the past year, it's definitely starting to move up, right? We can see here we got a higher high here, right, versus this high here. So that's kind of a good sign for the underlying. Also, we're continually starting to make higher lows, right? We can see that here. So let's say from here, let's just say from here up to here. So yeah, I mean, we can kind of see we're making higher lows, and it is above the 200 period moving average on a daily time frame. So I mean, from this perspective, it's looking like ARK is solid. So what could be happening with OARK? Well, let's just take a little glimpse at a bigger picture of ARKK before we get into OARK. Okay, so let's zoom out here to the weekly time frame and get a better view. And then now you can really see what's happening here. I remember this thing way back then when it was consolidating here around this $40 level, and then it just took off. Look at this growth. And this thing was the Wall Street darling. I mean, this thing ripped up. It made a lot of people a lot of money that invested in it around the $40 level and less. Look how this thing just ripped up. And then Kathy Woods apparently fell out of favor, made some poor decisions, and yeah, here we are, right? Now, you can say, and you wouldn't be wrong in saying this, that it's possible that this is a bottom. It's possible that this is a bottom and consolidating. Well, maybe. I mean, let's even zoom out a little bit further. Let's go to a monthly time frame. Hasn't been around that long. So is it the bottom? I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to tell. We're going to go back to the weekly time frame here because I do want to show you something. And then we're going to dive into OARK and see what the heck the problem is there. But I want you to look at the underlying first, if you will. So we could say, and I don't think anyone would be wrong in feeling this way, that it is consolidating and it is possibly finding a bottom. Now it is below the 200 period moving average on the weekly time frame. So that's bearish, right? But you could kind of see this, right? We could kind of say that it's making even higher lows, right? We can kind of see this on the longer time frame, on a weekly time frame. So yeah, we can say that, and that's true, and it is making higher lows. There is one problem with it, though. It's got a double top, and it fell off from there, and it's having a problem getting across this double top. So it's kind of wedging in here. And there's probably going to be a dynamic move, honestly, coming out of this thing. I don't want to gather a guess because that's what it would be. But as you can see, we're forming this wedge here, and albeit a slow wedge, but it is a wedge. But so as you can see, it can't really break out. It has this double top here. It sold off from there, and it's coming back up to test the double top, coming back up possibly to test the 200 period moving average on the weekly time frame. But it looks like it's staying in this channel, rather staying in this wedge. And it may fall back down into this wedge, maybe to the $40 level, and just kind of float around in here for a little bit if it cannot cross the 200 period moving average on a weekly time frame. Now it's time to dig in to OARK and kind of see if we can find the problem. Here's this wedge I drew up on the weekly time frame, and you can see it here on the daily. So let's look at OARK and say, why is this thing possibly going to reverse split very soon? Look at the stark difference, right? This is what we're noticing with the ETFs that reverse split. The stark differences sometimes between the underlying movement and the ETF, right? So we have OARK here. Look at this. Let's go back to ARKK. Stark comparison. And there's a few yield max funds that look like this, right? We know GUI, and then I did a video on XOMO, kind of the same type of deal. Most of yield max funds do a really good job of following their underlyings to the upside, even though they have a covered call strategy. We realize that it's capped, but the ones that have stark differences in comparison really fall off, and it pays a 40% dividend. Sorry about my chart here. There we go. And it pays a 40% dividend, so it's not horrible at all. But when the share price continues to decline like this, yeah, so, it's probably going to get down to 10 because Jay said he likes to reverse split around that 10 level. He does not want them getting to $5. So if this thing continues to fall off and the underlying, let's go back and look at it, is in this channel, or this wedge rather, and if it's going to, if it can't break the top of this wedge and it's going to come back down, well, that's what's going to happen to OARK. That price is going to come back down. It's going to reverse split. In the meantime, this thing is in this wedge. So it's not looking good, just from my perspective and my opinion, for OARK, even for the long term. Unless, again, it can break out of this wedge, get across the 200 period moving average on a weekly time frame, and start going up from there. But the levels of resistance, the shorts pile in on this fund any opportunity they get. And you would think here volatility would be really high, the premiums would be great. So what's going to happen as it starts rising? The premiums are going to be less. But you will get some, I would say, well, you'll get some share price appreciation, and that will help offset that. Well, as we've seen with OARK, that's just not happening. So I don't know what's going on with this fund. Obviously, I don't like it. I don't like the movement. And this is probably the next candidate for reverse split. What do you think? Do you like OARK? I mean, are you a fan of it if you own it? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know what people think that hold it. If you enjoyed the content, press the like button. If you like charts and other stuff like that, I'll leave a link to my Discord server, and you can come on in there. We talk charts, trading, and high-yield dividend funds. Hope you enjoyed the content. This is Mike.